is because we are lucky enough to have a special guest here joining us in studio, Darrell Williams, the president of Hampton University. Mr. President, it's an honor to have you here. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much, Connor. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, now I want to note first, before we dive into everything happening Pirates, is that you walked into our Live Impact News studio. What do you think of the space?
I think it is a phenomenal space, and the first thing I thought about, and I think we kind of talked about this off camera, was how could we incorporate a space like this in the Hampton University Journalism and Communications program.
Yeah.
I think as we are always looking to elevate Hampton University and our student experience, that this is a very unique space that I understand you just recently designed.
Yeah,
that would
Live
be
Impact
perfect,
News.
I think, for our students. So I really, really like what you've done here.
Good. Thanks very much. And you saw me fishing for compliments there, Naya. I knew that we were going to get some good reviews back because we talked about it before, and it was so cool to watch you walk in and immediately connect it to your students' experience. As soon as you saw the studio, you started thinking about your own students. Can we stay with the journalism program? Because we have one of your journalism students here who works for us, who I get to work with very closely, Shane Fordham, and he does sing the praises of the program that you guys have built over there. It's something that you guys are very proud of.
We're very, very proud of it, and without even having to ask you, I know that he's doing a phenomenal job. And so that's the first thing I would say. We have just such phenomenal students. You mentioned something a little bit earlier, and that was about the student experience at Hampton University. Coincidentally, the vision for the university under our strategic plan is to deliver the #1 student experience in America. It certainly seems like our Hampton graduate that's working for the news station had that experience, got that expertise, gained the phenomenal academic and social experience that we talk so much about at Hampton University. So, yes, I'm not surprised, but we're very pleased to hear that he's doing well.
And shout out to Shane Fordham, and he does an amazing job. His work is fantastic. He does news and sports, but I will also say, and Naya can back me up on this, whether it's about sports or how you prefer your potatoes or any topic between those, if there's a debate happening in that newsroom, Shane Fordham is at the center of it. We know that. So he's also keeping things alive in the newsroom. He brings a lot of energy, a lot of positivity to us, and it's awesome. So we appreciate your program and everything you guys have been doing over there.
Well, look, I love it. And, you know, like so many of our programs, our journalism program is really one of the highlights of Hampton University. And we have so many phenomenal graduates. And I'm glad to see that, you know, his impact here is far beyond just what he does on a technical level, and that he is engaged in healthy debate and lively discussion here. You know, one of the things that we talk about so much at Hampton is that we educate our students not just to participate, but the expectation is that you take that great education and that you lead. And that pervades every aspect of your job, every aspect of your life. And at Hampton, we sing this part in our alma mater about allowing your life to do the singing, and it certainly sounds like Shane's doing that here. Great.
No doubt about it. And you mentioned leadership.
Yes.
And so I want to stick with that topic here briefly because you have a military background.
I do.
And you are in a leadership position now. I'm wondering, what are some things that you learned during your time in the service that you use now as the president at HU?
It's a great question, and I get asked that question often. You know, in another way I get asked, so why would you transition from, you know, 3.5, almost 4 decades of service in the military to academia with a brief stop in the corporate sector? And so one of the things I've learned is that the principles of leadership are pretty universal. And in so many ways, the things that worked for me in the military work just as well in corporate, and they now work here at Hampton University. So one of the things that I say all the time is that over some period of time, the organization begins to reflect the character and the energy of the leader. And so I'm mindful of the fact that at Hampton University, which is my alma mater, you know, I graduated in 1983, and my wife's alma mater, 1983, that every single day, the thing I keep centermost or uppermost in my mind is the idea that everything that happens at the university is ultimately my responsibility, and it reflects my own personal character, approach, and energy. That's one thing I learned. The next one I learned in the military that I still try and carry through today is that the first tenet of leadership is caring. Caring about, in this case, our students, caring about our faculty and staff, our alumni, caring about our community, our broader community here in Hampton Roads, and then caring about our corporate partners and others who are all engaged with the university to make us successful. And so those are the two things I would say right off the bat, that the institution and the organizations that you lead at some point reflect your own personal commitment. And then number two, the first tenet of that leadership is that you have to care.
Yeah, and to that second point, in my time, I haven't been in many leadership positions. I've been able to observe leadership, and that seems to be a core piece of any successful leader is you have got to care. And oftentimes, if you care about the people that you're in charge of leading, then they will follow whatever style you choose to go about your leadership. So I just couldn't agree more. I think that's an awesome point. And July of 2022, you assumed the position of president at Hampton University. We now sit here in December of 2025. I know it's difficult to pinpoint, but I'm wondering if there's any one thing you're most proud of during your tenure.
I am extremely proud. And the first thing I would say is, wow, how time flies. You know, it's been 3.5 years, and yet it feels like it was yesterday. But when I think about things I'm most proud of, they all relate back to the vision of the student experience. And so one of those things happened just last night. And so in Hampton, the city of Hampton, at its council meeting, they approved a voting precinct to be established at Hampton University's campus. So when I think about not just education, but when I think about impact, when I think about taking something out of the classroom, political science, if you will, and then seeing the manifestation of it in our students having greater access to voting, in my view, this was among the most strategic things that's happened at the university. And what was most impressive about it is that this entire initiative that took a year to a year and a half to come to fruition was in large measure led by our students. So much so that in the 2024 election period in 2024, our students had overwhelming participation in the local voting and elections. And then in 2025, it was even bigger. So much so that our students and our precinct experienced among the largest growths of voting of any college in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so that's practicality, that's history in action. And I owe all of that to our students. And that's that part I talked to you about earlier of teaching them not just to participate, but to lead. And last night, our students did something where they led, and the university is grateful for everything that they've done. The other one I would talk about, and I think we'll talk about, is the enrollment increase here at Hampton University. And so over the last 3 years, we've experienced an overall enrollment growth of 46%. And at the undergraduate level, about 44%, but 46% overall. The level of effort and collaboration and improvement in our facilities, our academic programs, our external engagement that it took to make that come about is nothing less than astonishing and amazing. And so we're very, very proud of the enrollment growth and what that says about the university. And then if I had to point to one more item, it'd be the fact that Hampton University reached what we call R2 level research status. We're the only private university in the Commonwealth of Virginia that has this status as what we call an R2 research institution as a private university. Those are some, certainly not all, of the things I would say I'm most proud of in the first 3 years as we step into a launching pad for continued success.
Yeah, you talk about 44% increase in undergraduate enrollment, 46% overall. Now that is compared to national enrollment across U.S. colleges has grown by 2 to 3% in recent years. So that's just to give even more perspective on how impressive that growth is. So I want to ask, why do you think that you guys have been able to achieve that? What is it about Hampton and your administration that has been able to create an environment where you see growth that far outpaces so many other schools?
My first comment would be it's a team sport. Mm-hmm. It really is a team sport, and there are a number of things that we've done to make that monumental leap in our enrollment. And so the first thing goes back to that vision I talked about earlier, delivering the number one student experience in America. So when I first came to Hampton University, that very first fall, we conducted a student survey. And the student survey talked about those things that would elevate the student experience. By and large, they were already fairly happy with the experience that they were having at Hampton, but we wanted to, like most universities do, want to continue to improve and to elevate it. We also did a staff and faculty survey that year, and then from that data, from those analytics, we charted a course with a strategic plan to address those areas that our students said would make their experience even better. And so addressing some of those areas has been part of the student satisfaction that has led to not just admissions, but has led to us retaining the students, which has led to that overall growth in enrollment. And so we've taken the approach that keeping our students at Hampton University and attracting those students is much more about a sense of belonging. And so we did some things structurally as well. We took our admissions office and combined it under our student success. And now from the day that a student and their family are recruited to Hampton University until the day they leave, they have a cohesive sense of belonging experience that we believe is fundamental to the growth at Hampton University. We've also become much more precise in how we target the students that come to Hampton University. Not only is it our admissions office and our recruiters, we now also use our alumni that are all across the country and all across the Commonwealth of Virginia that are assist in a very prescriptive program we have about attracting students to the university. And then we have 3 great programs that attract large numbers of students to the university. One is our fall honors visitation weekend, where we bring some 1,500 students and parents or so from across the country, and in some cases around the world, who want to take a first peek at Hampton. And then in the fall, we have an admitted students day. Those students and parents who have already committed to our wonderful home by the sea. And then we have a high school day in the spring as well, to give those high schoolers, 9th graders, 10th graders, and others their first look at what could be their next home. So if I had to encapsulate, all of that, I would say there's certainly a lot of individual things that we've done to improve enrollment, but if I had to point to one thing, it's really more of a philosophy and an ideal than it is any individual set of circumstances. And that is treating enrollment and an increase in enrollment by tending to the sense of belonging at Hampton University and addressing our student concerns.
Yeah, that's such an interesting point. I want to stay with that because I think every school, every company, every organization around the country wants to create that sense of belonging. They want people to be excited to go to their institutions, excited to spend time with the people they work with or learn with. But it's difficult it's a difficult thing to foster. It's not easy to do. And you talked about Alumni Weekend and how that helps, and you talked about bringing in high schoolers early on so that they can start sort of developing that. Is there anything else that you can point to that helps establish that? And I'll add, especially for kids in that age group, a sense of belonging seems to be more and more difficult to come across with the rise of social media and the feelings of isolation that can create. So is there anything in particular that you guys do beyond that to create that sense of belonging?
Absolutely, yes. It really is at the very top of the list of things that we do. So we've taken the approach that every touch point that a student has with someone or something at Hampton University is about belonging. And so from the enhanced touch points with their professors to the people that they encounter in the residence hall, to the persons that they encounter at the dining facility, to the persons they talk to in the admissions office, the financial aid office. It really is our comprehensive approach to create an ecosystem that creates a sense of belonging. And then I will admit that at Hampton University, we have a decided advantage when you look at the beauty and the surroundings of our beautiful campus. And so you've been there before, and you know exactly what I mean. So first of all, we sit on a peninsula, and then we have among the most beautiful waterfront campuses in the United States of America. And on that campus, because we are on a peninsula and we have very defined entry and exit points, and we're on a campus where the campus is still the center of student life, we have the opportunity to create a sense of community that may be difficult to replicate in some other places. So it really is all about every single touch point that we create. There's some things we've done ergonomically as well at the university. And so we talk less about individual things and about creating experiences for our students. And so if you ever come to our beautiful cafeteria that sits right along the waterfront, it is a gorgeous facility. I only wish we had that facility when I was a student. It certainly didn't look anything like it does today. But aside from the facility, if you go inside and if you look very closely, you'll notice a few things. So one is the types of tables and the ergonomic design of it. And so we have 2-person square tables where there can have one-on-one conversations. You have 4-person square tables. You have 6-person round tables. You have 8 to 10-person high-top table. There are lounge areas. You can sit on the first floor. You can sit on the second floor. So you have multiple types of experiences that you can have in the same location. And as the president now, when I go visit the cafeteria, my measure of success, certainly how good is the food and how our students are enjoying their dining experience, but it's also about how many students are not talking on their cell phones and are sitting and engaging each other. That is an intentionality around creating a sense of belonging. And in this age of social media, where our students spend so many times on their phones and their tablets and their other devices, we attempt to create those experiences that continue to foster engagement. Mm-hmm. Those are some of the additional things that we're doing around the student experience that creates a sense of belonging.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear it, because it seems like based on our reporting, it's going to be one of the great educational challenges to come, is how to deal with devices, both making sure that students are, adequate and expert in technology for their futures, but also maintain that sense of belonging, connection, and engagement. So I love to hear you say that. Now, I'm wondering if I can ask you something specific, and I know that as the president, you have so many big picture things that you have to tend to, but I know that Hampton University has a nursing program. And I know that just recently, there has been talk that nursing will be downgraded to a non-professional degree. And I'm wondering if when something like that happens, does that change anything about what you guys do in your nursing program? And has there been any students that have raised concerns about this to your administrators? Just because I know you guys have a very successful nursing program.
Well, you're absolutely right about our nursing program. It's one of the most historic programs in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And it goes back, over 100 years now.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we celebrated 100 years not too long ago.
Congratulations.
And so thank you very much.
It's a big anniversary.
It is one of the great programs at Hampton University, along with, in the early days producing teachers for the Commonwealth of Virginia and our nation. And so certainly with some of the recent announcements, as you would expect, it certainly would cause some concerns. But from a Hampton University perspective, make no mistake about it, regardless of what happens at state or national levels, we will always teach all of our nursing students like the absolute professionals that they are. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, there's still some uncertainty surrounding those potential policy initiatives, but for now, we will continue to in the future absolutely teach our students that they are professionals within their ranks. And so at a time when, there's a shortage of nurses and a shortage of teachers, the message that we at Hampton University want to send them is that it is still a wonderful profession to get into, and we think that there will always be a need for jobs and professionals within that area of expertise, and we believe that our nursing school will continue to thrive. I talked about the increase in enrollment. One of those big increases is in fact in our nursing program. So we have seen no pull away from that profession, nor do we expect to see one. We will do everything that we possibly can to continue to attract the phenomenal nurses to Hampton University that we have consistently produced for over 100 years.
Fantastic. And again, the 100-year anniversary. People need to let that soak in, just how much of a legacy that is. Yeah. Okay, can we talk sports a little bit? I've had the opportunity.
Let's talk sports.
Let's do it. I've had the chance to sit down with athletic director Anthony Henderson before. I found him to be extremely thoughtful about the state of modern college athletics. I know you guys, women's basketball, men's basketball, football, new coaches all within the last 2 years. Those are kind of the big three in a lot of different ways when it comes to college athletics. I'm wondering, what do you see with the advent of pay for play and the advent of the transfer portal and NIL, and the fact that this is unquestionably now a multi-billion-dollar business that at times feels more professional than amateur? What do you see as the future of college athletics at Hampton University? What role does that play for your university amid this shifting landscape?
The landscape might shift, but for Hampton University, we see moving into the future as robust an investment in athletic programs as we ever have. We have always been a university that produced champions, from when we were in the old CIAA to the MEAC, and we then went to the Big South, and now we're in the Coastal Athletic Association.
You went all the way back to CIAA there. I thought you were going to start with the MEAC.
So I was at Hampton University when we were in the CIAA. In fact, one of the biggest games that I remember as a student when we were in the CIAA was, I want to say it was like January of 1980. And there was this phenomenal game in our gym at the time, Holland Gym, where Rick Mahorn, the famous former NBA player, and Charles Oakley, who was from Virginia Union, squared off, in Hampton's arena. And unfortunately, we lost that game that night, but I think Rick and our basketball team went on to avenge that loss. But those are some great, great, great days.
I mean, you're talking about, this is possibly the two most intimidating players in the history of the NBA squaring off at Hampton University. I mean, that's no joke.
It was an amazing time.
That sounds incredible.
And I
think Rick Mahorn just had his number retired, I believe, not too long ago.
We retired his number. He came back to the university. And I don't think, 3 or 4 months passes by without Rick and I sharing a phone call and him lending his support to our current basketball team and to the university. He's one of our most beloved alum. And so it's just emblematic of the feeling that we have about sports and about the men and women who have made Hampton University so successful. So I said that we will continue to invest in sports, and here's why. We view sports in many cases as just a front porch to everything else that's so phenomenal and successful about Hampton University. And it really is part and parcel to that experience that we want to create. And so if you talk about a football game is more than the players on the field. This is an engagement experience, certainly for the students and faculty and staff on campus, but it's also one of our amazing community engagement experiences. It's also a recruiting tool in so many ways. It draws attention to the university and our phenomenal academic and athletic programs. So for some of those reasons, even though the landscape is changing with the transfer portal and with NIL, it still continues to be among the most valuable experiences at the university. I would also say, and you've been to Hampton and you've seen this as well, that every year we have our phenomenal homecoming experience. And every year, sometime in the month of October typically, some 10 to 20,000 people and alumni descend upon Hampton University's campus. And it's all centered around the football game as a vehicle to draw people back to the university. That connectedness is hard to replicate in most any other experience. With that said, there are challenges, no doubt. And having to pay student athletes in many cases is a part of the experience now. We're lucky to have a number of corporate sponsors and individual supporters that are helping us to afford that. But it is a challenge, there's no question about that. But we think we reap as much benefit from that process as potentially we lose. For every student and athlete who chooses to go to another location, we get another student athlete just as phenomenal in return. And so we don't expect there to be a change in Hampton's approach to athletics. We've always been a championship institution. The young men and women who participate in athletics are among our best scholars at the university, have some of our highest GPAs. And so it benefits the university in so many different ways, and it benefits our student athletes. And we are proud to be a part of the Coastal Athletic Association. We don't see our approach to athletics changing.
And I hate to make you do this because I know you love watching and attending all of them. Do you have a favorite sport to go and watch one of your Pirates teams play?
Well, you're really trying to get me in trouble here, aren't you? And that's not going to happen. I love all of our 17 sports. I will say
we'll ask him again off camera. Don't worry.
I love all of our sports, and all of our student athletes are equally important and deserve our attention, resourcing, and support. But I really do. I'm a sports person myself. Mm-hmm. I grew up playing basketball, just a little bit of football, ran track in high school as well. And so I love athletics, and more importantly, the lessons that it teaches about life as a vehicle for success in the future for our student athletes. So I love all of our sports, and I think they all in their own individual ways contribute to that vision.
Yeah, and you talk about enrollment. I mean, watching the Hampton Pirates play in the NCAA tournament, or a local 6th or 7th grader who's in Armstrong Stadium on a Saturday afternoon, I certainly, I would believe that helps with some of those great numbers that you guys have been getting in enrollment.
You couldn't be more right.
Yeah.
I'll give you a couple of examples. So just this past weekend, our Lady Pirates basketball team played in a tournament at Disney in Orlando, a Disney ESPN collaboration, and they played 2 games, made it to the finals, and this was an inaugural tournament. and our Hampton Pirate young ladies won the first Disney invitational, if you will. The message that sends, both to them for winning a championship, as well as the visibility that it brings to Hampton, is incalculable. This coming weekend, Hampton University will play Howard University in the Battle of the Real HU in Washington, D.C., and that is always a national event. Our rivalry with Howard goes back to 1908, and so Howard, along with certainly Norfolk State University, are among our greatest rivals, and that brings always a lot of attention to the university. And then our men's basketball team in February have been selected to play during NBA All-Star Weekend in an HBCU showcase, and we'll be playing North Carolina A&T. All of those events highlight and showcase certainly our student athletes, but it certainly points to the excellence of Hampton University and the standard of excellence that we always seek to achieve. This
is the first time hearing that news about NBA All-Star Weekend. That's fantastic.
You heard it here first.
That's
you
awesome.
Heard it here
and
first.
That's going to be in California, out at the new stadium for the LA Clippers. Will they be playing at the Intuit Dome, do you know, or will that be a different location?
I think it's going to be a different location.
Okay.
We can get it to you specifically, but I think it'll be a different location.
Yeah.
And right now, I think the game is scheduled for the 13th of February, the day before Valentine's Day, and we expect our team to go out and showcase its excellence, and it will be a phenomenal event, and we're so proud to represent the HBCU community as well as the Coastal Athletic Association in an NBA televised event. That's the kind of experience that our students come to Hampton for, and we couldn't be more proud to be a part of it.
That's awesome. Congratulations to the men's basketball team, a part of NBA All-Star Weekend. And the women's basketball team, 6 wins right now, tied for the most in the CAA conference so far in this young season. So congrats to all the squads, all the Pirate squads over there doing great things. I want to make sure that we don't get out of here without Nia Campbell getting a chance to ask a question. The People's producer, Nia Campbell, welcome to the conversation. Any questions, Nia? I didn't mean to leave you out.
I do not have any questions. Y'all talked about everything.
We did. Very thorough.
Okay.
All right. Fantastic. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we let you go?
You know, although Nia didn't have any questions, I have a pretty good authority that she is a Florida A&M University graduate, and just like the reminder that she is up here in Hampton University Pirates country, and I can't wait to have our next game of some sort with that phenomenal university as well. Really one of our premier institutions of higher education, and certainly another very prominent HBCU. And so I couldn't leave without making mention of that. But
if we do get a Hampton FAMU game, are you going to wear your Rattlers gear here in Hampton Roads?
Okay. Gear.
Okay, good. All right, we'll make sure that you're there, and maybe I'll get a Rattlers T-shirt as well, just to represent for the People's producer here in Pirate Country. But awesome. I thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate you spending extra time with us today, answering every question that we got for you. So thanks, and hopefully we'll have you on Live Impact News again, and hopefully maybe we can do something where this platform is extended to your journalism department in some way.
I told you I'm blown away by how compact it is, but how effective. It would appear to me that this is the kind of platform that we'll see moving forward in the future. And I can't wait to get my Dean of the Journalism and Communication and some others over, and some of our students, to take a look and see if this is something that might be helpful to their experience. But again, to you and to your colleagues here at the news station, thank you for this very important, impactful conversation around higher education. No discussion these days around higher education or any other form of work is complete without this whole discussion on artificial intelligence. That's certainly an area that Hampton will be deeply embedded in going forward. We're in the middle of development of an academy for artificial intelligence. We expect to see some major progress in that area over the next 7 to 8 months or so. We want our students to be enabled by this new capability that you can't say higher education without. And then the other area that I would highlight is Hampton's responsibility to this entire community. It falls outside of the educational realm, but we're doing a number of things right now in the workforce development area. And so in August, we cut the ribbon on what we call our workforce development enterprise. And we now will have, a space where we teach off campus HVAC certifications, also for welding, certified nursing assistance program. We also have a culinary arts and business networking center, along with some other areas. And this is all about fulfilling our responsibility to the broader community outside of our academic enterprise. So Hampton University writ large just could not be more proud of our students, our faculty, staff, alumni, and all of our partners here in the region. And then certainly we're very, very proud of the work that we do as an anchor institution within this community, and the question that we often ask ourselves about being an anchor institution and doing things like establishing a voting precinct for not just Hampton students, but for our veterans and others, as well as the workforce development enterprises. We don't do it, who will? So from Hampton University, thank you for hosting us today and allowing us to have this very important and impactful conversation. And as I sign off, I say, go Pirates.
There you have it, Mr. Darrell Williams, the president of Hampton University, talking about all things now, all things the future when it comes to the Pirates, and of course that massive 44% increase in undergraduate enrollment, 46% overall surge since 2022. Thank you again for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll see you in here next time.